possession of drugs.
I can break it down, yes. I don't have it with me today, but I can break it down.
And that is what you're looking for? Yes, right. Thank you very much. Mr. Joseph?
Can I go? Great, thank you. Hi, my name is Jeremy Joseph. I'm a member of LI United and Nassau County DSA. So I want to talk about data collection and transparency. So many of our members have effectively been blocked from receiving data on arrest and disciplinary records and police budget info. I personally talked with Newsday journalists who've expressed the same hopelessness and frustration about accessing police records. So we have activists and advocates who are blocked from this data. We have journalists who are blocked from this data. In the absence of any independent body, like an Inspector General or CCRB, we are left listening here to the police commissioner staring into a black box of data, saying, everything looks good, police reform is working, and take my word for it. So this doesn't mean much to me. I hope it doesn't mean much to you as well. We heard earlier about there are lawsuits regarding these outstanding FOIA requests. You have a legal obligation to comply with these FOIA requests in a timely manner. The repeated failure to do so speaks to either an incompetence that needs to be addressed or hostility to the law and public accountability. Neither of these are acceptable. So getting to the nuts and bolts, in the police reform plan, you reference the New York State track system as well as the CAD system and Premier One. You say race and ethnicity can now be entered into the track system, but continue to reference CAD and Premier One. It is not clear. Is the CAD system no longer being used? And has Premier One been adapted to receive these demographic information collected by tracks? And yes, maybe you can answer that specifically. And overall, can you clarify these systems, which systems are in use, and can you assure us that they will enable timely response to FOIA requests? Changing topics a little bit, in the police reform plan, it is stated that facial recognition technology is not being used in conjunction with body-worn cameras. However, GTAC, the company supplying these cameras, they do offer a facial rec technology product, and integration of these tools are rather trivial. It can be done at a later date. So I'd like to ask you again to confirm that facial rec technology is not being used in any of our body-worn cameras or any surveillance systems, video or photo processing in the police department, and nor will they be deployed at a later date. So putting the inaccuracies common to these solutions aside, the data captured by these systems would put NCPD at risk of running afoul of many civil rights and privacy issues. And I can say one last thing, sorry. So as a scientist who has previously worked on facial recognition technology, I can firsthand tell you that the legal ramifications of a private entity deploying facial rec technology is tremendous. Those for a police department, for law enforcement deploying facial rec technology, it should be a non-starter. So I'd appreciate that assurance today. And that's it.
I'll jump right in. So for the record, right, there are many law enforcement agencies around the country, federal government included, that use facial recognition because it's a great tool especially in the war on terror and the war on heavy narcotics drugs. The Nassau County Police Department does not have facial recognition. The Nassau County Police Department did not buy facial recognition part of the GTAC system, right? As far as ensuring that it will never be used in the future, I will never do that. Because there's a tool out there that makes my police department better and keeps our residents safer. But when that time comes, we'll let you know, right? Because you're going to have to come up with the money to pay for it. And I don't have it. But again, we do not have it. We do not have it. We did not buy it in GTEC with that system. And again, but again, I can't say what the future holds because that'd be foolish on my part. As far as the track system in Premier One and CAD, the New York State track system did not capture race or gender. Did not. We asked them to put it in. We, the Nassau County Police Department, when we found out it wasn't, we went one step above that. we created our own T-Stop, and that collects race, gender. By the way, the race and gender, I'm not allowed to ask when I stop somebody. So I can't ask you your gender. I can't ask you your race. And if you don't have a license and I'm issuing you a summons to who you tell me who you are, I can't put this stuff down. And it's not on your New York State driver's license. So, but we created our own stop to be compliant, to be transparent, and to give that data to the public. And when the first comment was that we're not being given the data, we're giving the data that we agreed to give in the reform. When we hear things that are different and people ask something, as Susan did, we will address that, no problem. We can give that data. Also, Legislator Rhodes asked something, we'll change it. We can get what you're asking for. That works. It's, as I said, I will never give access, unfeathered access to my data system, because that's crazy. You can't do that. But you ask me what you want out of it, I'll go in and try to get it out of you. As far as the FOIL goes, we feel that we're compliant as far as the law with 50A has changed. The judge in this case has gone above that and asking for more. So we have taken the challenges up to protect the rights of our officers. And when the time the court makes its ruling, that's when we'll do what we're told to do by the law.
Thank you.
And in that sense, with, that's to be determined by the courts, whether or not, are they compliant or not compliant. But I do want to add something. You know, we do listen to Commissioner Ryder, and we do meet with our police, and we get all this data from him and all this information. But we are also all involved in our districts, okay? We meet with our community leaders, we meet in our neighborhoods, we meet with parents, school teachers, businesses, and everything. So a lot of times, the information that we get in regard to the Nassau County Police Department and their officers and their superiors that patrol the streets, a lot of that information is given to us by our community members, all right? You know, I'd like to say that we all have very vocal people that live in our communities. We have some civic leaders that really, you know, and we listen to them, you know, and I know that one of the sticking points last year was that people really didn't like POP officers. They didn't want them to be involved in schools, and, you know, when that was being, you know, considered, we heard from community leaders, school districts and everything, you know, where they said this is what we want. So we a lot of times we listen to what the community is telling us. And if they have a problem with the police, we then address it with the police commissioner and with the inspectors in the various precincts that we work. So I just want you to know that it's not just, we don't just sit up here and listen to what Commissioner Ryder is telling us. We're out there, and a lot of times we probably are fact-checking him as well. So, all right?
I appreciate the intent, but I think many of us would say that you're not equipped to you know, enact the sort of accountability that is required here. Sorry, just a follow-up question. So Commissioner Ryder, you did answer the issue regarding body-worn cameras. Can you confirm that none of our other surveillance systems use facial technology?
So I gave that statement. I'm pretty straightforward. We do not have facial recognition in the Nassau County Police Department.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Cheryl Keshner.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Keshner. I work at the Empire Justice Center, and I'm a coordinator of the Long Island Language Advocates Coalition, or LILAC. We've been working since 2010 to ensure that the 250,000 Long Islanders who are not proficient in English have equal access to all programs and services in our counties. We have met with Commissioner Ryder on several occasions and made him aware of our concerns related to language access, which we believe is a key issue in police reform and in ensuring that all members of our community are treated in an unbiased manner. We know it's not the only issue, but it is a fundamental issue. And you know, appreciate your report today, Commissioner Ryder. You certainly provided more information about what's going on. You know, we have, over the years, conducted testing on several occasions of the Nassau County Police Department where people would call in various languages to see how, you know, how the department was doing and to see if they could get the information that they needed. And over the years, the response has not been good. And we have brought this to Commissioner Ryder's attention and did not have really heard back for several years until recently. There was an incident involving a domestic violence victim who had sought help through a local community agency. She only spoke Spanish, went to the agency, they contacted the police, and she was not treated properly and kept waiting for several hours and not provided with an interpreter, was threatened with arrest, and was not treated in a professional manner. We brought this to the attention of Commissioner Ryder, and he did meet with us, which we appreciate. But it also revealed, in speaking to other domestic violence advocates, that there are a number of patterns and problems that need to be corrected. And it isn't only for people who are limited English proficient, you know, as we saw with the Joanna Bird case, which people have referred to. You know, there needs to be greater accountability. There needs to be transparency when these situations occur, and there need to be appropriate responses when officers are not enforcing orders of protection, as in her case. That was part of the complaint that people had, that they were not seeing orders of protection enforced, that they were not getting interpreters, that children are often used as interpreters in inappropriate type of situations, and they should not be used as interpreters. And so, you know, we've brought a number of these concerns to Commissioner Ryder. We need to see increased accountability. We need to see internal audits so that they can be measured how effective the department's being in actually providing language access. There need to be separate supervisors assigned to domestic violence and to language access. They have one person assigned to both. We believe that's too great a job for one person. There needs to be an improvement in the complaint process and greater follow-up. We are not seeing people get a response when they do file complaints. And there needs to be better language access policy and domestic violence policy. There are a number of other issues we brought to the department's attention, but we just wanted to make you aware of this. Thank you.
Commissioner Ryder, in regard to the domestic violence, I know that we have the Safe Center here in Nassau County. Is that really where most of the complaints go to when people have, because I know that when I get phone calls when people need assistance, we usually reach out to them. So how do we handle this?
So we are one of the few counties that have a Safe Center here in Nassau County. We don't have one supervisor overseeing domestic. They oversee on the numbers. That's a person assigned to the numbers. Every supervisor is responsible for every cop out there to do their domestic reports. Every domestic reports, when Communications Bureau puts it out and says, respond to a domestic, whatever it is. That commanding officer the next day checks to see if there's a report that backs up that thing. So the CO of the command in the patrol division verifies that. The desk officer verifies it. Sabrina Craig, who's our sergeant, she verifies it. And from the reporting side goes this way to patrol. The investigative side has a second layer that makes sure the investigation is done, and that sits in the hands of the chief detective's office. And that's where those numbers go. But we double, triple check. You know, and that case that Cheryl referred to, and as we explained to Cheryl that day, we already got out to it. Dr. Jeff Reynolds was involved in it. He called me on it. And it was between the Hempstead Police Department and the Nassau County Police Department. So there was and that officer in that case from my department was disciplined. And we explained that. He was wrong in the fact of what his attitude was on that day, but it was a dispute between departments, Hempstead and Nassau, on who's taking the report. Rectified, corrected, the victim, Dr. Jeff Reynolds, and them, they all spoke and they were satisfied with the outcome, but it shouldn't have happened. I agree, and we agree, that's why we discipline our officers. So, but there are layers of proof to follow up to make sure that all domestics are taken for an order of protection. And that came out of the case, as she's referring, going back to Joanna Bird. Major changes in the way we track it and look at things. As far as the case language line and stuff, yeah, as I've said many times, and again, I appreciate Cheryl because she is passionate about what she does. And we are not perfect by any means. And I said it all the time. But when it happens, just call me. She can call me directly, and I'll make sure that cop is dealt with. But if I don't know about it, I can't chase something down a month later, 2 months later. That's all I said. They have my number. They know to call me, right? And how to reach me. And I will, believe me, take the task to that officer if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So our reporting requirements, and as far as the policy goes, we have set, and we have made changes. We may not agree on everything, that's why we have those discussions, but we have made changes that were suggested by both Cheryl and Susan and the team when they come in. We meet with them, we listen. We're not always going to agree, but we do make changes for the better. It's always about taking care of the victim first.
On the language access, when people call in and like they're speaking Farsi, and you don't have an officer or anybody that can understand it, do we record all of those conversations?
So we immediately contact Language Line, and Language Line becomes our translator in that situation. When it gets to an arrest situation, we won't use Language Line. Language Line doesn't want to be that person, right? For obvious reasons. So we then have to bring our own, find a translator to bring in. And in some of the more difficult languages like Farsi, it's difficult to find. Most of them work in the intelligence center, so we can fill them out, and most of them are civilians in our department. So we have a language group that goes through the process. But the reason we put phones in all the cars was